Hello, please excuse the slight change of format in this video. It's mostly going to be an audio podcast style, except near the end. It's going to be part rant and part lead up and explanation of my next video that will be an Antarctic year in review. What now feels like a long time ago, my brother told me that some people believed the earth was flat, and at the time I couldn't believe anybody was really serious about it. Later, I found out someone I knew fell for some of the flat earth proofs and sent me a video. In this case, it was a laser level test over water. My curiosity grew and I wanted to see how this was possible, being at odds with what I knew or thought I knew. So I started to watch other videos that were out there. The likes of the videos I did watch did seem compelling for the uninitiated, and I'll be honest, I did feel a bit of crisis of faith for a short time. I never did go all in, but I did dip my toe into it enough to study the matter and to hear their side of the story. Faced with a conflict of what I thought I knew and what I was presented with, I wanted to know how this was possible, so I started watching even more videos. Over time, back then when the video YouTube recommendation system was still half decent, some of the recommended channels talked about atmospheric refraction and flaws in the laser level experiments, along with a myriad of other explanations debunking other topics brought up by the flat earthers. Thankfully, my own doubts were very short-lived and my acquaintance also eventually came around, but for the life of me I could not understand how anyone could so completely ignore what were clear explanations for simple phenomena that discounted their flat earth evidence and how they continued to hold on to that belief. I started this channel wanting to mock the flat earthers and to make the average normal person laugh, hopefully more than just a little bit. From the very start, I added Easter eggs and running gags left there for the viewers to not only discover but to even notice them. The effort to write a script with my own brand of humor was more than I could afford to put into it, so I changed directions. I found a new form of Sudoku or crossword puzzle. Like a knot to be unraveled, I started to study and learn some aspects of the world around me. How exactly does the sun move around the sky? I figured that out before I even learned about equatorial mounts. If I knew the exact time and date, could I work out my location with some weird contraption I would try to make? If I knew my exact location and the exact time, how could I work out the position of the sun? Could I build something sensitive enough to measure the rotation of the earth? I found for me the best way to learn something is to try to do it myself and then to explain what I did, why I did it, and the pitfalls and traps I encountered along the way to someone else. Doing that not sounding like a complete nutcase helps you focus. I wanted to learn how the sun moves in the sky, so I tried to come up with different sundials and different devices that may or may not already exist in different formats. I do enjoy trying to figure out weird new ways to do some things sometimes. I traced the path of the shadow cast by an omen at different times of the year on a piece of paper to work out how the sun moves in 3D space and how to transform it so it matches any location on Earth. I wanted to see how a gyroscope, if it was sensitive enough, responds to the Earth's rotation and how it would rotate at different latitudes. With the crudest of designs, I was barely able to demonstrate something that showed how it should precess. For a personal sense of the cool factor, I wanted to capture the analemma of the sun myself, so I set up some cameras. That alone eventually conceived a project that let me create all sorts of videos and take me down a path I could not have imagined when I started. I did all sorts of physical measurements. I analyzed the results. I learned the globe math. I picked up new skills, and everything was exactly as it should have been. The Earth is spherical, not flat, and everything, when put to the test, confirmed that. While all this was going on, I discovered that people are not really that interested in entertaining cerebral content, and they just want to see a good old-fashioned train wreck. So the videos that did well were the ones that called Flat Earth a bunch of idiots. At the rate things were going, the sun would grow cold long before the last flat earther gave up that stance, and I felt a certain level of burnout doing the same thing again and again, making videos for the sake of making them, but not really feeling all that satisfied. It took Will Duffy in the final experiment to shake everything up to the point where all doubt to the shape of the Earth would, or rather should, be removed. It's been a roller coaster ride these past few months for those following along watching the flat earthers' reactions. Ultimately, however, I got a strong sense that flat Earth was going to continue despite all the odds against it, and the impending doom of definitive documented evidence for something they claim can never happen. That gave me an opportunity to contribute what I had to the cause by making several predictions and early on add suggestions to make the endeavor better. I also had a very muted sense of renewed energy and was able to keep cranking out the videos. Watching the OGs of Flatopia constantly shift and change their tunes with the approach of the experiment was great fun. Watching them melt down and blow mental fuse after mental fuse during and after the live streams from Antarctica were in a way cathartic. Flat earthers have claimed, and probably will still claim, that we are all indoctrinated sheep for believing in a globe earth, that we are programmed to believe a lie so they can control us. I did fairly well in college, but I think I might have done even better if I really appreciated the fact that it was not just more high school. First, we learn the facts and the basics. How do you use a protractor? How do you tell time? What are the various elements of a sentence? What is basic arithmetic, and how do you add numbers together? These are the most fundamental skills needed to get by in the world. Is this indoctrination? Is it indoctrination to learn about perspective in art class? Or is it to help you draw something that is not considered impressionist or just plain shite? College taught me that real education and higher education in general is not what to think, but how to think. To a flat earther who struggles with what this means, they equate it to the complete annihilation of one's self-expression and the completion of some sort of brainwashing. Nothing can be further from the truth. A good mechanic knows how to think about a car and is able to find obscure problems without tearing it into 1,000 pieces looking for it. There is more to fixing a car than just pulling wrenches. It's what separates technologists from technicians. Any trained monkey can swap parts randomly until an issue is resolved, but it takes someone with skill and understanding of complex systems to observe issues and diagnose a fault, tracing it down to what part of that system is causing that fault before even taking anything apart. How to think is a large tool chest of skills that abstracts the world in your mind so you can find the best solution, and that is the very skill I think is absent in flat earthers, which keeps them trapped where they are. Having to get off one's backside and go to a place flat earthers claimed was not allowed just to show them the sun did what they said was impossible has changed the narrative slightly, but from the reactions I've seen so far, it has ultimately failed to accomplish what it set out to do. Flat earthers have and will continue to reject the sphericity of the earth for a number of reasons, but I think they've been handicapped by the negative connotation of how to think, and so it seems they instinctively resist the efforts to do what they should. Years ago, I found some web cameras at Puerto Williams. Sorry for the bad pronunciation. I was able to see from those cameras that in December the hours of daylight were very long. This easily verifiable observation was inconsistent with flat earth. The place is real. It's a freaking airport. There are people there doing people things. What is the chance someone went to all that effort to set it up on the very slim chance someone like me would look for it and use it as evidence to discredit the flat earth? I verified the accuracy of what I saw in that web camera by using globe earth math to compute the expected sunrises and sunsets, and in the span of several months it matched every single time. I was able to confirm the moon was where it should be using the globe earth math and compute where it should have been for my own location. I was able to confirm that the moon was setting towards the north at my location while, through those cameras, simultaneously setting towards the south at Puerto Williams. This cannot happen on a flat earth due to perspective, when the moon passes between our two locations. I also started to look at web cameras that were within the Antarctic Circle, and the one I thought had the most stuff happening, or rather the most interesting stuff happening at the time, was at McMurdo Station. I took images briefly a few years ago, but on December 21st, 2024, which is only a year ago, I started a project of having my computer save a copy at every 15-minute intervals of the images that were taken there. First, there were 3 cameras. Then, when one was taken offline as the exterior of a building they were constructing was nearing completion, the remaining 2. After a month, I released a video showing how the sun never set for the entire time I started the project. Flat earthers back then still said it was fake and that I didn't show or prove anything. If the images I was looking at and that anyone else could look at were fake, why would they go to such effort to set those cameras up? Was it to deceive people like me? How could they create such a realistic landscape? There were 3 cameras at the time, and every one of them showed the exact same construction going on. If it was not in an outdoor location somewhere with the real sun for lighting, it would have to be in a very, very large studio somewhere, and with very bright and distant spotlight circling around the set. It would also be far too easy to compare the local cloud coverage against other sources like weather stations. Is McMurdo Station just a giant reverse Truman Show meant to fool everyone who is not there rather than a main character into thinking it was real? They might get away with it if they set up a secret base in the Arctic and shift the images by 6 months, but that would require those who are there to pretend they were elsewhere, and there would be other complications like the sun moving in the wrong direction. How could they hire so many actors dedicated to maintaining a secret that no one would break their silence and to play a part for the sake of deceiving the world? How could they maintain such an elaborate and extensive setting that, in order to be believable, would have to be artificially created in a studio somewhere? To pretend that the web camera images anyone is able to obtain of McMurdo Station is anything but genuine is very disingenuous. Every test I put against those images was entirely consistent with a globe Earth, and the level of authenticity remained high. The direction of the sun, the direction of the moon, the landscape, the fact that people were doing what people do like moving vehicles around or constructing buildings, topographical features that matched various videos found online, the consistency with maps and satellite photos, and as my next video will show, the available elevation data when modeled to recreate the setting matches very, very well. For me, the final experiment was not necessary for anyone with more than a functioning brainstem. I heard the arguments for each side. I dusted off my old knowledge of trigonometry and algebra to confirm the accuracy of the published and easily obtained globe model, or to work out the predicted flat Earth model. I realized that while the globe Earth model works in every single test I put it against over the years, the flat Earth model doesn't. I thought for myself, and I knew not only why, but how flat Earth was just silly and a new form of chasing unicorns. For the last few years, I didn't want to continue down the path of laughing at the vast quantities of stupid in its distilled and purest form. Moving on to a new form of stupid feels like kicking the can down the road, and the feeling of dissatisfaction would only be deferred once again, if only for a short while. I announced a few months ago my intent to move on to something else, and that might cost me some or most of my subscribers. But I will see if I can make a go of it, or if I will keep getting pulled back into the ridicule of the cult of flat Earth. For the next few weeks, however, and the close of 2024, I want to celebrate this past year by showing off my most recent side project. As stated already, I got my computer to get an image every 15 minutes from the 2 main cameras at McMurdo Station. I had plans to stop that after several weeks or perhaps a month, but 1 month turned into 2 when I wanted to capture the sun finally setting. Then 2 months turned into 4 when I wanted to capture when the sun no longer rose above the horizon. Then it turned into 6 months, and then I just kept going. By the time I publish this video, I will already have obtained a full 365 days of images from McMurdo Station. For me, simply creating a time-lapse is not enough. Anybody could do that. I used the knowledge I gained making the predictions for the final experiment to get the elevation data at McMurdo, and to model where those cameras are. The 24-hour sun in Antarctica was settled for me long ago when every globe Earth test I put against various observations passed over the last 5 years. That I was able to track the shadow cast by the sun for several days last January was further evidence. Unlike what a flat earther said to me, using the ability how to think, I was able to see that the shadow cast was caused by the sun moving from right to left, and with my skill of persistence of objects, I was able to confirm that the sun did remain in the sky and was able to continue to cast that shadow. Having a code base that I wrote myself with formulas to calculate the celestial locations of the sun and moon for any time and their direction for any location, I was also able to compute the expected direction of the sun and the moon for McMurdo Station and to use that in the 3D render model I created with the elevation data I obtained elsewhere. I have every reason to believe that when they set those cameras up, they never imagined I would attempt to recreate what those cameras saw, and with a few minor differences around dusk and the obvious nature of the model, the reconstructed landscape in a 3D model remains far too consistent with a bunch of pictures taken without so much as any thought or consideration that it might be used in that way. To pretend that the similarities between the web camera images and the 3D rendered model are only coincidental, or that the rendered model doesn't preclude other possibilities we have yet to discover, and leads us to falsely believe in a spherical Earth, is somewhat limited in intellect and dismissive in incredulity. I have absolutely no expectations a flat earther can engage whatever they use for their thought-making process to explain how I could recreate the landscape and the day-night cycle of a location as well as I have when what I know came only from what I've seen from web cameras, satellite photos, maps, and Google Earth. For me, the final experiment was concluded millennia ago by people who had a real desire to think for themselves and to fit the pieces on their own. To give today's generation of reality deniers the continuing courtesy of entertaining their unsupportable ideas is only a waste of time and effort. To that end, like I said in a post on my YouTube channel, going forward, I do believe that I'm going to make a lot more videos that are not flat earth related. I'm only going to show some highlights in this video of a side-by-side comparison between a 3D rendered model of McMurdo Station and the images that were taken by web cameras. I'm not going to play the entire thing because this video would end up being way too long. Do look out for my next one where I plan to show the entire 365-day time-lapse on its own. But for now, in this one, I'm just going to go and pick a few highlights and I'll play them here. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you very, very much for watching all of my videos that I've been doing in the past. I hope that you will continue to watch my future videos. As always, if you like this video, I would appreciate the thumbs up, the subscribe, comment below, all that other good YouTube stuff. With that, I'm going to see you again in another video, hopefully soon enough. So bye for now.